My brother lifted the wedding microphone, looked straight at me, and smiled like he'd been waiting his whole life for this. "Meet my loser sister who still lives with roommates," he announced. No whisper, no shame, just a clean, public cut in front of 200 people. The crowd laughed. My mother stared at her folded napkin. My father suddenly found the carpet fascinating. I stood there with champagne shaking in my hand, swallowing every sound. Then the ballroom doors opened, and Ethan's new boss walked in. "Before I tell you what he said, tell me, where are you listening from?" The first thing I noticed was the seating chart. Not the flowers, not the string quartet tucked near the marble staircase, not the cake with 5 perfect tears and sugar pearls lined up like little white teeth. The seating chart. My name was at table 19, pushed near the service doors, between 2 cousins I hadn't seen since middle school and one of Ethan's co-workers who kept checking baseball scores on his phone. My parents were at table 1. Of course. Ethan's college friends took table 2. Claire's family filled the next 3 tables like royalty. And me, I was close enough to hear the kitchen trays rattle. I stood there in my soft gray dress, one hand resting against the place card, pretending it didn't hurt. The dress had taken me 20 minutes to choose. Not because I cared about looking perfect, but because I cared about not giving Ethan a reason. Too bright. He'd say I was trying to steal attention. Too expensive. He'd say I was showing off. Too simple. He'd say I looked broke. So I chose quiet. Quiet fabric. Quiet heels. Quiet pearls. A woman trying to pass through her own family unnoticed. That had been my role for years. Ethan was 3 years younger than me, but our house had always bent toward him like a plant toward sunlight. When he joined the baseball team, Dad bought a new camera. When I won a scholarship, Mom said she'd put the letter somewhere safe, then lost it under a stack of grocery coupons. At Thanksgiving, Ethan carved the turkey even though he mangled it every year. Everyone laughed. Everyone clapped. I passed the rolls and listened. If I mentioned work, the table went soft and awkward. "How's the computer thing?" Dad would ask, like I repaired printers in a basement before I could answer. Ethan would grin. Still living with those roommates. Pen. And that was all it took. One sentence, one smirk. My life reduced to rent, failure, and a joke everyone understood before I ever got to speak. Maya and Lucas were not my roommates, not in the way Ethan meant it. They were my co-founders, the 2 people who had slept on office couches with me, eaten cold takeout over investor reports, and built something real while my family kept calling it a phase. We lived above our office because some nights the work ended at 2 in the morning and started again at 6, because the building had become less of a workplace and more of a war room, because the people who believed in me were not the people in the framed family photos on my mother's hallway wall. But my family never asked enough questions to learn the difference. That evening, the ballroom smelled like roses sprayed too heavily with water and vanilla frosting under hot lights. Claire floated past me in silk, beautiful and nervous, squeezing my arm with the polite pressure people use when they want credit for being kind. "Glad you made it," she said, across the room. Ethan lifted his glass when he saw me. His smile was smooth, practiced, hungry. And suddenly, table 19 felt less like an insult and more like a warning. Dinner moved like a machine. Servers slipped between tables with plates of glazed chicken and roasted vegetables. Forks scraped china. Someone at table 7 laughed too hard at something that wasn't funny. The string quartet had been replaced by a playlist full of soft pop songs no one was really listening to. I stayed at table 19, smiling when spoken to, answering just enough to seem normal. Then the best man finished his toast. Ethan stood. The room changed before he even touched the microphone. It was small, but I felt it. My father straightened in his chair. My mother lifted her phone to record. Claire turned toward Ethan with that glowing new wife smile. All trust, all pride. And Ethan looked at me. Not at his bride, at me. A cold little pinch moved through my stomach. "Before we keep celebrating," he said, tapping the microphone once. "I have to introduce someone very special." A few heads turned. I lowered my eyes to my plate. "Please don't." My big sister is here tonight. Ethan continued. Come on, Penny, stand up. Don't hide back there. Heat crawled up my neck. People began looking around until they found me near the service doors. Table 19 went quiet. The coworker beside me finally stopped checking his phone. I stood because not standing would have made it worse. Ethan smiled wider. There she is, he said. Meet my loser sister who still lives with roommates. For half a second, the room didn't know what to do. Then somebody laughed. Then another person. Then the sound spread across the ballroom like spilled wine. My fingers tightened around the stem of my champagne glass. I could feel the tiny bubbles trembling against the rim. Ethan held up one hand like he was calming a crowd after a brilliant punchline. No, I'm serious. 34 years old. Still splitting space like she's in a college dorm. Meanwhile, some of us grew up, got real jobs, bought real houses, and, He turned toward Claire and lifted his glass. Married real women. That one got a louder laugh. Claire's smile faltered, just a little. Not enough. My mother looked down at her napkin. My father took a sip of water so slow it looked rehearsed. Ethan saw he still had the room, and that was always dangerous. Penny was supposed to be the genius, he said. Remember that. Mom, always building things, always talking about changing the world. And now, he shrugged. Still doing some tech idea with her little roommates. Someone near the front muttered, That's rough. But he was laughing when he said it. I wanted to sit down. I wanted to disappear. But something in me refused to fold in front of him. So I stood there, back straight, cheeks burning, while my brother used his wedding toast to bury me alive. Then Ethan's eyes flicked toward the entrance. His face brightened. Oh, wow, he said into the microphone. Looks like my boss made it after all. The ballroom doors opened. A man in a dark navy suit stepped inside, carrying the kind of calm that makes noisy rooms correct themselves. I heard whispers ripple through the tables. Ethan's coworkers sat up straighter. Ethan laughed. Drunk on attention. See, Penny, he said. That's what happens when you're valuable to a company. The man looked past Ethan, past Claire, past every table, straight at me, and that was when I knew this wasn't a mistake anymore. It was a reckoning. Daniel crossed the ballroom like he already knew where he belonged. Every step he took made Ethan's smile stretch thinner. I couldn't move, for a second. I wasn't in that ballroom anymore. I was 8 years old again. Standing beside a broken lamp Ethan had knocked over while Mom asked why I couldn't just tell the truth. I was 16. Hearing him tell our cousins I only got good grades because teachers felt sorry for me. I was 29, sitting at my parents' kitchen table, trying to explain my first major contract while Dad checked his watch because Ethan was coming over to show them his new house keys. All those little cuts came back at once. The jokes, the eye rolls, the way my mother would smile too tightly and say, Penny, don't make everything a competition, as if I had ever been allowed to compete. Ethan raised his glass toward Daniel. Mr. Reed, I didn't know you were actually coming. What an honor. Daniel barely looked at him. Penny, he said, just my name. Not miss. Not ma'am. Not some awkward polite greeting. He said it like relief. Then he came straight to me and pulled me into a warm hug in front of 200 people. The laughter died so fast I could hear the air vents humming above the dance floor, over Daniel's shoulder. I saw Ethan's face freeze. His mouth stayed open, still shaped around a smile that no longer worked. Daniel stepped back, keeping one hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry I'm late. The board meeting ran long. A few people whispered, board meeting. Ethan blinked. You two know each other. Daniel turned, finally giving him his full attention. Of course, that was all he said at first. And somehow, it was worse than a speech. My mother stood halfway from her chair. Claire's fingers tightened around her bouquet. My father looked between Daniel and me like he was watching a locked door open without a key. Daniel lowered his voice, but not enough to hide it from the front tables. The legal team is waiting for you downtown, he said. We need your signature before midnight so everything can move forward Monday morning. My champagne glass stopped shaking, not because I wasn't hurt, because something inside me had gone still. For years, I had protected Ethan from the truth. I let him mock me because correcting him felt like begging. I let my parents believe him because proving myself to people who never asked felt exhausting. But standing there, with his insult still hanging in the air, I realized something. I didn't owe him my silence anymore. Ethan gave a short laugh. It was the same laugh he used when he needed everyone to believe he was still in control. "Well," he said into the microphone, even though nobody had asked him to keep speaking. "This is unexpected. Penny never mentioned she knew you." Daniel's hand stayed on my shoulder. "That surprises me," he said. "Penny doesn't usually waste words, but she's the lead partner on the acquisition." The microphone picked up Ethan's breath. Not a word. A breath. Claire turned toward him slowly. Acquisition. Daniel looked around, noticing the room for the first time. The frozen smiles, the half-raised glasses, the people who had been laughing at me less than a minute earlier. "Yes," he said carefully. "The board approved the transaction tonight, pending final signatures. Our company will move under a new ownership structure Monday morning." Ethan swallowed. "What does that have to do with Penny?" Daniel looked confused for a second. Then his face changed. He understood. He looked at Ethan, then at me, then back at Ethan. "It has everything to do with Penny," he said. "She represents the group leading it, a chair scraped somewhere near the front." My mother whispered, "Penny." I didn't look at her yet. I couldn't. If I looked too soon, I might see regret, and I was afraid regret would still hurt more than the insult. Ethan lowered the microphone from his mouth, then lifted it again like it was a shield. "No, that can't be right," he said. "She lives with roommates." The word landed differently this time. Roommates. The thing he had used to make me small. Daniel's eyebrows pulled together. "You mean Maya and Lucas?" Ethan blinked. "They're her co-founders," Daniel said. "They live above the office because they run operations across time zones. It's efficient." The silence got heavier. It pressed against the walls. Claire's voice came out thin. "Ethan, you told me she was barely getting by." I watched my brother's jaw tighten. "I was joking," he said. "No," I said. One word. Quiet. But the whole room heard it. Ethan turned to me with that warning look he used to give me across dinner tables, the one that said, "Don't embarrass me." But he had already done that himself. "You were not joking," I said. "You told your friends I was broke. You told Claire's family I was unstable. You told Mom and Dad I wasted money on tech fantasies because you couldn't stand the idea that I might be building something real." "Penny," my father said, stepping toward me. We didn't know. I finally looked at him. His face looked older than it had when I walked in. "You didn't ask." The words came out sharper than I expected, but I didn't take them back. My mother pressed one hand to her chest. "Honey, we thought. You thought whatever Ethan gave you permission to think." I turned to her. "When I tried to tell you about my first patent, you said Ethan was coming over and you needed to clean the guest bathroom. When I told Dad I had signed my first major contract, he asked if it was a real job yet. When I tried to explain why Maya and Lucas lived with me, you both laughed because Ethan had already made it a punchline." Ethan's face went red. "This is my wedding," he snapped. "And you used it to humiliate your sister," Claire said. Everyone looked at her, even Ethan. Claire's bouquet trembled in her hand. Her eyes were wet, but her voice did not break. "You stood in front of my family and your co-workers and called her a loser," she said. "You made me smile through it." Ethan stepped toward her. "Claire, come on, don't do this right now." "Don't do what?" she asked. Notice that hit him harder than anything I had said. Daniel cleared his throat. "Calm but firm. I should also be clear. After Monday, there will be a full management review. Performance, leadership, workplace culture. Everyone in a management role will be evaluated the same way." Ethan's eyes shot to me. There it was. Fear. Not guilt. Not yet. Fear. "You can't do that," he said. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. I'm not firing you in a ballroom. I'm not ruining your marriage. I'm not asking anyone here to hate you. I took one step closer. The room seemed to lean in with me. I'm only refusing to keep protecting the lie that made you feel important. Ethan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time in my life, my brother had no joke ready, no smirk, no easy little sentence to turn the room against me. Behind him, people were already whispering. A man from his office leaned toward another guest and murmured something. Claire's father looked at Ethan like he had just watched a crack split through expensive glass. My mother started crying softly. Maybe for me, maybe for herself. Maybe for all the years she could no longer pretend she hadn't wasted. Daniel looked down at his watch, then back at me. Penny, the legal team is still waiting. I nodded. Ethan's voice came out small. Pen, wait. I looked at him one last time. He was standing under the floral arch, in his perfect suit, at his perfect wedding, surrounded by everyone he had tried to impress. And somehow, he had never looked smaller. Congratulations. Ethan, I said. I hope the applause was worth it. I walked out before the room could decide what to do with me. That was the strange part. For years, I had imagined proving myself to my family would feel loud, like a speech, like a slammed door, like some grand, burning moment where everyone finally understood what they had done. But it was quiet. My heels crossed the marble lobby. Daniel walked beside me without asking if I was okay, which I appreciated because I wasn't. Behind us, the ballroom had turned into a hive. Whispers followed through the closing doors. Someone said my name like they had just learned how to pronounce it correctly. Someone else said Monday morning. Then Ethan came after me. Penny. Wait, I stopped near the elevators. His bow tie was crooked now. His perfect groom smile was gone. You know I didn't mean it like that, he said. I looked at him for a long second. You meant it exactly like that? You just didn't expect the room to find out you were wrong. His face tightened. We're family. No, I said. Family doesn't use humiliation as entertainment. My parents reached us next. Mom was crying. Dad looked like he wanted to say something fatherly but couldn't find a sentence that would survive the truth. Please, Mom whispered. Can we talk? Not tonight. It hurt to say it, more than I wanted it to. But peace has a cost, and sometimes the first payment is leaving before people can pull you back into the old role. Daniel pressed the elevator button. The doors opened with a soft chime. I stepped inside. As they closed, I saw Claire standing behind Ethan in the lobby, her bouquet hanging at her side, watching him like she had married a stranger, in the car. My phone lit up again and again. Ethan, Mom, Dad, a cousin who had laughed the loudest, Claire. I turned the screen face down. The city rolled past the window in streaks of gold and red. My champagne glass was gone, but I could still feel the tremble in my fingers slowly leaving. When we reached the downtown office tower, Maya and Lucas were waiting in the lobby with the legal team and a bottle of champagne. Maya saw my face and didn't ask for details. She just opened her arms, this time, when someone hugged me in front of a room. Nobody laughed. Lucas lifted the documents. Ready? I looked at the people who had believed me before I had anything impressive to show them. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. I signed the papers just before midnight. No speech, no fireworks, just my name in black ink. Steady for the first time all night. Ethan's company changed hands Monday morning. His future there would be decided by his work, not by my anger. And me. I stopped waiting for people to love me correctly after years of proving they wouldn't. Real family doesn't turn your pain into a punchline. If you've ever had to protect your peace from your own family, tell me in the comments. And subscribe so you don't miss the next story.